Hi everybody, today we have another special guest on. We're going to talk to Anastasia about the morality of divorce. I'm just trying to get her up here. This will be a very interesting topic, so I hope you guys can listen to it all. We're going to talk about the moral, or is it moral or immoral? And we're going to talk to Anastasia. Hey, how are you?
Hi, Karen. How are you?
It's good to see you, and I'm really interested in this topic. So I look forward to all you have to say about this today.
Sorry. I'm sorry. You said you want this topic. You were looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. This is going to be an interesting topic because it probably crosses quite a people's minds. This is divorce, moral or immoral, right? Like what you're going to talk about that today. Another thing is before we get started, I just want you to give a brief introduction of who you are and stuff, so people get to know you.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me, first of all. And my name is Anastasia Frangakis, and I am the founder of the Seraphim Life Coach. And so I am a divorce coach and a relationship coach. I've been coaching for about 3.5 years. I came from corporate America, but I've always been interested in empowering people, but especially women, as they go through their divorce journey.
Okay, so today's topic is we're going to talk about is getting a divorce moral or immoral? And you're the specialist, so do you want to give us a bit of an idea what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah. So I'd like to challenge our listeners to think about how their feelings, their personal feelings, whether divorce is moral or immoral, and do any extenuating circumstances mitigate any moral obligations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when ending a marriage is one of the most impactful decisions a person can make, not only for themselves but for their spouse as well. There are some ethicists that will say that when you get married, you have the moral obligation to fulfill a partner's needs, and then also have fidelity in that marriage. So does infidelity negate that
Mm.
obligation?
Big
It's a good
question.
question.
Big
Yeah,
question.
it's a
Mm-hmm.
great question. So, sometime, during our wedding ceremony, we spend a lot of times writing our vows, right? And there's usually emotional components to that, to love, to trust, to honor, right? And that creates a covenant, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you walk away from the relationship, what exactly happens? Does that mean that you're no longer morally obligated to that person? So I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of for me, those vows are probably the one of the biggest things you say in a wedding ceremony, right? Whether you're in a church or temple or wherever you are, even on the beach, you do say these vows. And for me, in my own experience, it is pretty difficult when you're battling about whether to decide to stay or go. It is something that comes up. I guess the point is it depends what type of marriage you're actually in. Um, because you know how much can you take as a person, right, to getting a divorce? Is it just that you're not getting along really right now, or it's been a long
Mm,
time, or is there actual abuse in that marriage, right? I guess it depends on everybody's unique situation. I know you brought up some scenarios that you want to talk about, like such as the children,
mm,
the obligation for the children. And I can tell you from my own experience, that was one of the hardest things for me as well, is because I didn't want, because I'm from a divorced family, I didn't want my kids going through what I had to go through. So, did I have some major conflict about that, making that decision? Yes, that did. So, if you want to expand on that, because I know you want to talk about the scenario of the children, um, to see what your thoughts about that
yeah.
is.
So when a relationship is getting so impactful to the children, negatively impactful towards the children, and you start to see some outbursts or some anger or even withdrawal on behalf of the on behalf of the children, you have to worry about their mental health, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the couple needs to assess where they're going to go with that relationship, and is remaining staying together, will that perpetuate a harmful environment for the children, not only during the time period that they're living in now, but for future relationships as well,
Good
because the
point.
dynamics change, for those children, because either they have a tendency to withdraw from because they don't want to further escalate a situation, and then they lose their voice,
Mm-hmm.
in the future. So it's important that, I always feel it's very important if you are going through divorce to have some counseling for the children.
Yeah, it would be very beneficial if you can afford to do that, to get
Mm-hmm.
some actually even work with there's actually therapists that actually can help you work on the behaviors of the children, like so you get an idea of what's going on with that child as well. So
Mm-hmm.
if you go in, you can go in for a session and you can talk about your child's behaviors, and then you have the child go in with the therapist and you guys can learn to work with that behavior and understand it better. I know because I worked with one of the a lady that did that as a therapist, and it was quite insightful for people that were going through tough times with their kids.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I recently worked with a couple who wanted to tell their children, and so we worked with age-appropriate statements
Mm-hmm,
to share with the children, because that's really important.
mm-hmm,
You don't want to pass blame or anything like that on the other parent. You just want to say, "Mommy and Daddy still love you so
mm-hmm,
much, but we're going to choose to separate," and keep the comments upbeat and
mm-hmm,
positive as much as you can, because it is an emotional time for everyone.
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to another scenario that you want to talk about too, was the challenge of financial and emotional cost
Yes.
with the morality of divorce. I mean, that is everybody that goes through divorce. I haven't met anyone that's their lifestyle does definitely change. Women get affected greatly. We know that. So did you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. So in most households, the male is the primary breadwinner, and sometimes when they get a divorce, depending on the state that they're in, there may not be a 50-50 split. And then there may or may not be alimony or child support involved. So usually the women are impacted financially in a greater way. And one has to consider the morality is my spouse going to be able to support themselves um, after we get divorced? So that is something to consider. And I always believe we should divorce with dignity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And should take all those factors into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Back again, it depends on, to me as doing what I've been doing too in the divorce coach world and grief world too is I guess it depends how difficult the marriage is on that question, right? With
Mm-hmm.
because you're going to financially, there's going to be a struggle. So I guess it depends. Like I've known people that stay in a challenging, difficult marriage because of financial reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
And I think you see that more and more
mm-hmm,
in today's world, because the economy isn't doing as well as it should be. And I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but
mm-hmm,
it is a major factor and something for consideration.
mm-hmm.
That
Yeah, and
has to.
sorry.
I'm sorry, that person who's the less of the income earner has to either improve their skills
Mm-hmm.
or go and maybe get a second job. And if there's younger children involved, where's the time commitment for that?
Yeah, and it is, a lot of times I've heard, and I did this myself, is they plan, right? You kind of pre-plan to leave that marriage if it's really struggling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but Yeah, that's what a good question, right? Like you have to think about that as well. The other scenario that you want to talk about was, and this is an interesting one, is challenge of forgiveness too, right? So um, I wrote a blog about that not too long ago, but what are your thoughts about that?
So I think, and personally, and this is something I coined, forgiveness is so freeing,
Hmm.
right? And I know that there's a lot of emotions going on with divorce, but if you can forgive your partner, your spouse, your ex-spouse, first of all, you'll be a healthier person, right?
Hmm.
Because there's depression and anxiety and all those things that when you harbor that negativity in your heart. But when you learn to forgive, you'll have a healthier mental health.
Yeah, I think that's actually research based, right? That if you let go, forgive, slowly forgive. I think it's also there's no time limit like associate with that. So I don't want anyone to assume you have a year to forgive. It could take years to forgive, and that's okay, right? But there's also this thing I want to mention about that is also self-forgiveness.
Yeah,
So to also forgive yourself, right?
absolutely. That's
Because
an important component.
yeah, because you can forgive them if you want. You don't have to express forgiveness and say, I forgive you. That's up to you in your unique circumstances. Because I can tell you in my own with my ex, I would never approach him and say, I forgive you. But
Oh,
I'm
okay.
right. But for me, I do a lot of work on self forgiveness for me, right? Self compassion on me. So that's how I work it too, because I think it depends, again, what type of marriage you had. But I do. Forgiveness is, I had to actually study it in thanatology, right? Like you eventually, it does help you mentally, physically, physiologically, it does. It just for everybody, it could take quite some time. And I don't want people to feel pressure they have to forgive right away. But I agree with you. It is if you can lean that way, it could actually probably even help with your co-parenting and rebuilding your life. But
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
mm-hmm. Yeah, so especially for people who come from abusive relationships, being able to foster that forgiveness will take time.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I totally understand that.
Yeah. Do you have any other? Because I know there's a few others. Did you have any other ones that you want to bring
Oh,
up today?
no, I think that was good.
Yeah, these are really good topics. And is there anything else that you want to talk about? I'll ask anybody if they have any questions for Anastasia about this topic. It's really interesting. And if they do, just drop down the comment. Otherwise, what do you have any things coming up in the next while you want to talk about?
So I'm actually hosting on the fourth Thursday of every month a free workshop on narcissism for women,
Mm-hmm.
for people who are dealing with narcissistic relationships. So just reach out to me if you want to be in that group. It's totally voluntary, but it is for women only,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a support group. So that's one thing that I'm offering. The 26th is the next seminar. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I'm sure it'll be popular. It
Yeah,
seems to be the buzzword of the time. So,
it is a
um,
buzzword, but a lot of people feel that they're in
mhm,
those relationships. So
mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
I was.
yeah, definitely. I was as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So
So that's great. So we hope to have you back on. I think we picked October 15th to have you
yes.
back on to talk about other really interesting topics. So thanks for coming on and thanks everybody for
All
joining
right.
us.
And thanks
Okay,
for having me. Have a beautiful
you
day.
too.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.